Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Overland Weekly, episode number 31. If you are new here, you have found the show that explores the people, places, and events that make up the off road and overland community. As we are recording this, it is the week before Thanksgiving. I am back home here in Middle Tennessee, and it has been heavy wheeling and camping and all things outdoor season here. The weather's just really been great for us these last couple of months in this part of the country, and so we've had a few events since the last episode. We had Cruisers on the Rocks out at Windrock. That's Lee's event for the 100, 200, 300 series Land Cruisers. This was the fifth year for that. And that was a really, really good time. It's always a good event. But Lee and really his wife Joy, if you don't know, his wife is really the driving force behind the success of these events. Did a great job of pulling that off, and it was good to see old friends and make a few new ones as well. Our club was back at Coalmont, which is beautiful this time of year. It's beautiful all year. But we had our annual ride and meeting there. I got hung up with some work stuff, wasn't able to get over there, so I literally had to like FaceTime into the meeting. One of the guys zoomed me in from his phone at the campfire, so that was sometimes technology works to your benefit even when you're out in the woods. And then 2 weeks ago, we were back at Hawk Pride in Tuscumbia, Alabama, for the Veterans Day run put on by our friends at Heart of the South Cruisers. And that is I'm not going to call it an event because they don't like to call it an event. It's a gathering. It's a large camp out of friends, if you will, that has grown over the years, and it's always on Veterans Day weekend. And this year, was a great group of folks, and also extra special because our friends from Operation Tackle Box were able to come up from Florida, Jacob and Jeff Watkins, and join us. And you've heard me talk about Operation Tackle Box in the past. We've raised money for them with G Smitter, but this is a charity that Jacob founded that takes combat veterans that have PTSD, suicidal thoughts, other mental issues, and works to get them the help and assistance they need. And he started that by taking these guys and gals out on fishing charters, healing through reeling. And now it's evolved into Operation Trail Therapy, healing through wheeling. And getting them out in the woods for some healing in the outdoors that way. So was really good to see those folks and also raise some more money for Operation Tackle Box. And personally, that park, I just really like wheeling at Hawk Pride, especially this time of year. It wasn't too wet, but it was a little wetter than it was a couple of months ago, and that's some good technical wheeling. And it's one of those places that I find myself trying to keep up with the solid axle guys, and that's always a challenge. I enjoy it, but there was at one point I think we were out on a night ride, and I looked back, and it was just a row of 80s and 40s and buggies behind me, and here's the 200 series on IFS trying to keep up. So anyhow, it was a good time. Really enjoyed that park and the wheeling there. Speaking of the IFS versus solid axle wheeling, our guest tonight, who I'm going to bring in here, is now versed in both forms. His latest vehicle, he went a new direction. Some folks may say that's a step forward or step back, depending on how you want to look at it. But folks, let me bring Justin Wages in. Justin is joining us from Grass Valley, California. Is that correct, Justin?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. Yeah, thank you, brother, for agreeing to come on and have this conversation. For folks that don't know, we'll get into all his rigs and run down, but Justin's kind of evolved through the off-road and overland scene for vehicle wise. He was real heavy in Nissans there for a bit and still is. But you finally added a Land Cruiser to the fleet, right?
I did. And first, let me say thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I've seen your past lineup. I've seen some of the past shows, and yeah, I'm honored. So thank
Awesome.
you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, I did mix it up a little bit, but my Nissan friends are understanding. So they didn't quite kick me out of the club.
Well, that's funny because you may have seen our episode where I had some of the Nissan guys from this part of the country on, and it's always we give each other a hard time, but around here the Toyota club and the Nissan guys have always been a close relationship. There's never been like enough Nissan guys to go form like their own club or event, so we just always kind of take them in like little lost sheep to come hang out at the event. So it all works out.
Yep. That's same over here.
Um, but Justin, before we dive into your rigs and into overlanding and kind of everything currently, I want to back up because I've kind of read through some of your past and realized that your passion and your love for the outdoors goes way beyond and way before vehicles. And so it's tied to your life, it's tied to your health, it's tied through some difficult chapters of life. So if you're comfortable, let's kind of start at the beginning and let you tell your own story. And when you look back kind of at your early years and your upbringing, eventually the cancer diagnosis, uh, where does where does the story begin, and where does your love for nature and the outdoors kind of fit into that?
Well, I mean, pretty much from the very beginning, my first conscious memories, if you will. I grew up mostly with my grandparents on a 10-acre ranch, and we had, creeks running through the property, and salmon used to run through there, or at least steelhead by the time I was born. So I was always in ditches playing, catching crawdads and running through the fields, trying to hunt down pheasants with sticks and, random things like that. But I was always in the outdoors. I was always into fishing. My grandparents would always take us out fishing, different lakes and different rivers, that sort of thing. And I had, kind of not the greatest childhood with different parents and that sort of thing. Pretty common for people, growing up in the '80s, I guess, at our age
Mm.
group. Um, and so I kind of always just found solace, in nature. It was the one thing one place that I could go where, I wasn't being yelled at or, the bad things. There were pretty
Sure.
much only good things happening there. So yeah, I just always loved it, and especially the fishing. That was anytime I can go fishing, I was hopping fences and getting in trouble with other ranchers for fishing at the bass pond and that sort of thing. So
See,
yeah,
all that stuff was so much easier to get away with in the '80s, you know?
well, there were no cameras,
Yeah.
no cell phones, and just yeah, you can kind of do whatever. But they did have rock salt back then, so that's not fun. And the electric fences, those will
Oh,
get
yeah. Yeah.
you. So that's kind of where it started. Yeah, and then I ended up living with my dad for a little while. My mom and dad had separated when I was probably two, I think. And around sixth grade, I went to live with my dad for a while in Eastern Oregon. He lived in Ontario,
Okay.
and he was really into, I guess, overlanding. They didn't call it overlanding back then, but he would just take off in his Scout, and we'd just roam around the desert. Camp out, throw some sagebrush on the ground as a kind of a mattress, and just camp out. And I, coming from Fairfield in the Bay Area, California here, I had no idea what was going on. I'm used to the
I see.
outdoors, but this was like rugged outdoors. I was like, wait a minute, we don't have a tent or anything. We're just going to sleep on the ground here. Um, he was kind of a rugged guy. And that's where I ended up learning how to drive because he had a bit of a drinking
Oh.
problem, and he would buy a big, 24 case or whatever of beer and then get so drunk that I'd end up having to drive home. So,
And how old were you here?
uh, God, what are you in sixth grade? You're like 12 or something?
12? Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. So, yeah. So technically my first drive was in a international scout. So I always thought we were just poor and, you had these crappy vehicles, but, fast forward to now and I'm like, damn, that was cool.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
You got rid of that and got a Jeepster. And I'm just like, oh man, if I could have had these things now.
I know.
So yeah, so it was just always in the outdoors. That was my place. I just didn't really care for cities too much.
I read something that they asked you, or you said that one time back in the fourth grade, you had like a career day or question or something, and you announced that you wanted to be a forest ranger in the
That was
fourth
it.
grade. Yeah.
Yep. That was the only thing I could see myself being was, I mean, I didn't really know exactly what a forest ranger was in fourth grade and what their duties entail, but I knew they weren't in charge of making sure the forest was protected and people were doing the right thing. And that was what I wanted to do.
Gotcha. So you went through your first taste of driving and overlanding and camping and all that, and then how did that evolve over your teenage years?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. This was, in the late 80s, I guess, if you will. Funny enough, because I remember that same fourth grade class, they asked me or asked the class what kind of vehicle they want to own when they grow up. So everybody, had their Mercedes, Lamborghini, all that, and I had mine. It was a 1986 Nissan King Cab 4x4 SEV6.
Ah, okay.
Exactly what I
Yep.
wanted. So it was kind of the opposite of, the 1985 Back to the Future. Everybody wanted that
Right.
Toyota. No, I wanted that Nissan, that hard body 4x4.
So you were loyal from the early days.
Well, yeah, as much as you can be without
Right.
really knowing about cars. But yeah,
Right.
that was my car that I wanted. Um, and yeah, just growing up, I had a small inheritance from my grandparents, and I got really into cars. But back then, it was more street trucks was kind of
Okay.
the thing that was real big. People were getting, Chevy full size and dropping and lowering those, doing custom paint and all that stuff.
So were you doing the full size thing, or were you like a mini truck guy?
Nope, full size.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, full size, and then did car shows and things like that. But then, so the truck that I had bought and that I was fully doing up was a 1990 Chevy 454 SS.
Okay,
So
nice. Yeah.
yeah, I loved that truck, other than the garnet red interior. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. But I fell in love with the torque because technically they didn't have horsepower.
That's
Um,
I was talking just in the intro there about my friend Lee Sumner, who does Cruisers on the Rocks, and
yep.
we had a conversation because his teenage truck was a 454 SS as well. So
Oh, that's
yeah, we
interesting.
were
I
just
didn't know
talking
that.
about that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee's a great guy. I'm gonna have to bring that up at
Yeah.
Cruise Moab next time I see him.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we'll share pictures. But yeah, so I did the whole street truck thing with it, and then I took it to a drag race, just to see what it would do, and then got the bug for drag racing.
Mm.
So, and then back then, street racing was starting to become a real big thing. This is just prior to Fast and Furious, era.
Okay.
So I went out and bought a Foxbody Mustang.
Because that's what you did for the younger viewers. That's what you did then. Yeah. You bought a
Yeah.
Foxbody. Yeah.
Yep, that was it. Until the LT1 Camaro came out,
Right.
you weren't going to buy, that was third gen back then. Yeah, you didn't want
Oh
that.
no.
So you bought a Foxbody Mustang and you decked that thing out, and that was my street race machine. So I went through superchargers and just doing up the engine. I had a buddy that had an LT1 Camaro on nitrous, and so we would always just talk smack to each other, but then go out to the street races and just think we were kings.
Sure.
The coolest thing. You run from the cops, all this stuff you should not be doing nowadays, but there weren't cameras back then. So.
No. No, were you actually running at the tracks over there too, or was it all on the street?
No, it was at the tracks as well. Yeah.
So do you guys have in California at that time, did they have quarter mile tracks, or were they all at eighth miles? That's
No. The Sacramento Raceway has always been quarter mile for
okay.
as long as I can remember. And then we also had, I think it's think it's called Infineon Raceway now. It used to be Sears Point, but it's a little bit further out, outside of Vallejo, California. There, it's a 1/4 mile track, but it's also where they run NASCAR.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So Sacramento Raceway was kind of more the, the close by. Everybody goes and hangs out and does that, once or twice a week, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, just got full on into drag racing. Built up the Mustang, dropped in a 351 Windsor Vortex supercharger. Just built it all up to the point where it didn't run anymore, because you know how that goes. So what did I do? This is like circa 1998, I think it was. So I bought a Pontiac Trans Am.
Oh, sure you did.
Yeah, because LS1, right?
Right. Now,
So I bought
was
that
this
as
a WS6 or a base Trans Am or?
I had a base.
Okay.
I couldn't get into the WS6. I wish, but yeah, good you know that.
Hey, those were hot back then. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I bought that as my daily driver, and you can imagine what happened then. The Mustang just kind of sat in the backyard, the dogs chewing on the bumper, and I ended up building up the Trans Am.
See again, because that's what happens to Mustangs. They
Yes.
all go sit in the yard. Yeah.
They go sit in the yard. Yeah, especially because I was into automatics. And the
Okay.
automatic Mustangs were the worst because the automatic tranny blows up all the time. So it was worse than the 4L60E, for those of you out there who know
Right.
what that tranny is. So yeah, I started building up the Trans Am. I was back in California. I forgot to mention that, but at this point, and yeah, got into an LS1 club, NorCal LS1. And we just had, Camaros, Corvettes, Trans Ams. We had a couple of Viper weirdos who were in the club as well. And yeah, we would eventually became president of the club. We would put together big races against like the local Mustang clubs and stuff like that, do big cruises, toy drives, all that. It was
For sure.
It was a really good time for probably 8 years, something like that.
Now, were you going to school as well during this time? Were you already employed yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just had, the like manager of a Petco, kind of thing.
Okay.
Nothing big. And then I want to say it was when the Trans Am started to break and was sitting in the garage. I also had what do you call it? 2001 Sierra Z71 pickup, extended
Okay.
cab 4x4, 5.3 liter. So naturally, now that I'm driving it everywhere, and you got all these people that are trying to race you from a stoplight, and those things were dog spit slow back then. Stock, it would run like a 16 point something 1/4 mile. Even with the LS motor in it, it worked fast.
You had to, the only saving grace was if you got one that came with the 410s from the factory, you got a little bit more off the line with the 410s.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the 6 liter was actually a sleeper. Like I had no idea, but in the regular half-ton truck, you couldn't get the 6 liter back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later in the 2000s. So the 5.3 was all you got. It was like 250 or 260 horsepower, if I remember correct.
But coming from that 180 horsepower throttle body the generation before it felt amazing. Yeah.
It did. But the cool thing is, and what we were learning back then, was that a lot of the internals from the 5.7 liter LS motors were transferable. So when I had taken the cam out of the Trans Am, it was like, oh, well, I can put that cam in the truck. Or I can take 6 liter heads and put it on there, drop compression, and now I can put a turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So around that time, there was a company called STS Turbo that came out with a rear mount turbo. It would mount in the rear of the car. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
Super weird. But yeah, you would mount it back by the rear axle, run all your normal intercooler piping and all that.
Yep.
You run the piping back, and it worked. There's lag, but it still worked. And so I was doing testing and playing around with that. And next thing you know, I got, a small stall converter in the truck. I'm strapping down the front torsion bar so it won't lift when I launch, and launching it in 4-wheel drive. And I even got some videos on YouTube of screwing around with that, where think I ran like a low 12 at 111 mile an hour,
Oh man.
in this big half-ton pickup back then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm gonna have to go pull those videos up because it's taking me back. I had a 95 Chevrolet 3/4 ton, and in the early 2000s, 2002, 2003, uh, we put an LS1 in that out of a vet at the time. No forced induction or anything, just all motor. But that LS1 with that MV 4500 5 speed in the 3/4 ton, and I mean, you'd hit third gear, and they were still just white smoke.
oh
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
it was such a blast to
You
drive. Yeah.
gained like 200 horsepower
Oh,
in
it
the
was
wheels
it
just
was
from
it was
that.
just stupid. Yeah.
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 So yeah, I ended up just racing the truck, and ended up selling the Trans Am, and I sold the Mustang. Could never get the Mustang running right, and my goal for it was to be able to run like tens easy, maybe nines. And yeah, I ended up selling it, and then the guy that bought it from me knew what he was doing, did something. I can't remember what it was, but there's something different between the 302 in the Mustang and the 351 Windsor that had to do with the timing.
Okay.
And so, like at part throttle, the thing would just blow up the tires and just smoke them as far as you want to go, even with a spool in the rear. But as soon as you went past half throttle, it would go and just die.
Ah, okay.
I could never figure it out back then. Anyway, sold it to a guy, and then he ran it in the 8th mile, and it would have been good for. I think he was thinking it was like a 9.8 or something like that if he would have kept going. Anyway, yeah, I'll cry over that one later. But then all of that changed because I lost my job, and this is before the dot com thing. But
Okay.
anyway, I lost my job, started selling my cars. I wanted to go back to school. And I wanted to, all of my friends in the club that had all the money and the really cool cars were IT people.
Sure.
So I thought, because this is what, 2002 ish.
Yep.
So I thought, well, heck, they'll get me a job and I can make good money that way. So I ended up going to Heald College, which is a tech college we had around here for a while, because I didn't want to have to go to a regular college for, 4 or 8 or whatever years.
Sure.
For IT. Why bother? So anyway, I went to that for a couple years. Actually had a car crash into our classroom, which was kind of interesting. It flew off the freeway trying to pass somebody and basically tagged someone's front end, and it caused him to veer off, hit the guardrail, shoot across. He jumped over a 6-foot chain link fence and a little access road and landed in our freaking window. That one,
Wow.
I can show you that one too. There's actually pictures on the internet of that one. So
Was the dude all right?
yeah, he was fine. I actually rode in the ambulance with him because we were in, computer class there. And so when he shot through the wall, all the glass broke. Back then we
Yeah.
had big the CRT monitors.
Right.
So they exploded.
Sure they would. Yeah.
In my head or whatever. So I rode back in the ambulance with him to the hospital. So that was a pretty wild ride.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that ended up paying for my school, which was great because of the Heald paying that out. But then all of a sudden, everybody lost their jobs. All my IT friends, the IT industry as a whole, that whole .com bust thing just threw everybody for a loop. And now I had no more hookups.
Yeah, especially probably in your part of the country, even more so than it
'cause
affected us over here. Yeah.
Yeah, because here, like Sacramento area, I mean, we're
Right.
a stone's throw from Silicon Valley. So
Right.
so I had no more hookups. And at that point, I decided that I need to go back to regular school. So yeah, long story short, ended up going to, just a local college, trying to get all my general education stuff out of the way. I had a lot of friends that went to Davis back in the day. And so I always spent time hanging out down there, and they all said the same thing. They were like, if I had to do it over again, I would start and get my general at a community college and then go to university and save all that money. Cause the first 3 years or so, you're just paying out the nose for basic ed.
I still tell kids that today. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It hasn't gotten any cheaper. Yeah.
No,
So,
no, it's crazy. Yeah, I got a
yeah.
20-year-old son now, so I'm like, oh, wait, this is expensive.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so anyway, I decided to go back to school and kind of go almost full circle. And I was, well, what do you want to do now? You know, do what makes you happy, not what's going to make you money, right? I was going to try to do IT to make money, but in the long run, I know I wouldn't have been happy. So I went back to school and just started taking all my GE with the idea of transferring to UC Davis to study ecology. So
Okay.
study of natural systems was right in my ballpark, and fisheries.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I started doing, and then was 2 years into that, you know, got into the environmental club, started learning about all this. And this is where I'll probably lose a lot of our listeners. But just learning about our impact on the world
Sure.
and the data that that actually supports a lot of the stuff that you hear. So I'm thinking, man, I shouldn't have buried my oil in the backyard way back in the day. That's probably a bad thing. But you know, I didn't know any better back then.
None
So
of us did. None
yeah,
of us did, kids. We're learning. Yeah.
yep. So yeah, I did that, and then 2 years into it, I think two and a half, something like that. This is getting closer to 2008, 2009. I just I was super tired and didn't feel well. Couldn't figure out why I was so tired. And I started an internship at Placer Land Trust, and they basically protect natural habitat and agricultural lands. They're a nonprofit, and I was interning. Then I started working part time there, but I kept getting sick and couldn't figure out what it was for probably a good year. And then when I started seeing a lot of blood when I was going to the bathroom, knew something was really wrong. So they were great. They ended up making me full time so I could get the health stipend.
Oh, that's
Um,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, because here in California, I was going to school, had an internship, um, and I couldn't get health coverage.
Right.
So, and that was where I started to really kind of question our system when the crackhead next to me at the clinic is getting full service and I can't get anything, yet I'm going to I'm trying to make something of myself going to school and with the internship, whatever. And the kicker was because I had sold all of those cool cars and I bought a Prius. Don't disconnect me yet. But I bought a Prius. I wanted
Well,
to see,
folks, this has been a good episode, but
okay, so I love technology and I thought it was the coolest thing. And I wanted to save money. And so when I did the math, driving that Sierra around, I thought, okay, if I drive this for 150,000 miles, the car will more than pay for itself in the price or cost that I'm going to spend in gas with that Sierra. So I sold it to a buddy, bought a Prius. And interestingly enough, even though I was poor as could be, I couldn't get the health coverage from the state because the Prius was worth more than $2,000. And that was one of their stipulations. So basically, I'm just bleeding out of my butt, sick as hell, and I can't get any kind of help because I drove a car worth more than $2,000. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, so should I just sell the car and
right.
just ride a bike everywhere? This is ridiculous. So the land trust made me full time. I immediately went into Kaiser. I don't know if you have those over there, but we have Kaiser Permanente here is kind of like one of the big hospital chains.
Okay.
And they took me in, and we, did the basic tests and a colonoscopy and immediately found that I had a tumor. And then that started basically my whole cancer tour of duty, if you will. That went on till about late 2012. So yeah,
So
they
it's
found
like
I was
3 or 4 year run.
Yeah. Yeah. So that it was stage 3 plus. They didn't know for sure until they did more testing. They did find it in lymph nodes as well. So that was colorectal cancer. It wasn't genetic because they can do that testing as well. And basically the only thing they could think of at the time was that I'm just a product of the good old American diet. Not really eating veggies or green things, lots of barbecue food, fast food, that sort of thing. 'Cause I think I was 31 at the time, which is really odd because usually it's considered an old person's disease, or at least it used
Sure.
to.
Sure. And so, uh, Justin, if I remember reading correctly, so you lost part of your liver in that, but the liver regrows, rebuilds itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That part was actually probably the fun part because I do so many CT scans and X-rays and everything throughout this 4 years, that you get to see it actually getting larger and growing back, which was kind of cool. So the liver's just wonderful that way. Unfortunately, I did lose a lot of my lower intestines and rectal tissue, so that really kind of screws you up. I had an ileostomy bag. That's where they disconnect your intestines and put a port inside your belly to where basically as soon as it comes out of your stomach, the waste products that is, it'll go into a bag and you eliminate it that way. And I had that for about 9 months, which was really interesting too, because when you have that, you can eat all the hot food that your mouth can stand and you don't get a stomach ache or the other bathroom effects. It was really cool.
Okay, so you see, you're always finding the light in these things. Yeah.
That's it. It was horrible. You can't really date when you got this big bag stuck to you or whatever. But I was like, hey, now I don't have to worry about, eating Taco Bell and sitting in the bathroom. I don't recommend it though. Keep your bowels working.
Right.
Yeah, so I had chemo the whole time. They took the pouch out after 9 months, reconnected me. It takes a long time for your system to learn how to eliminate properly again after that, and it's never the same, which I'll get into later. But yeah, they took a part of my liver out. It regrew, but then it spread to my lung, my left lung. And at that point, the only way to get rid of it was to take a whole lobe out. So on your left lung, you have two lobes. On your right lung, you have three. So my upper lobe ended up having a metastasis, and so they actually just took the whole lobe out,
I see.
which was pretty interesting. And so a bunch more chemo and radiation. Well, radiation was in the beginning, but a bunch more chemo after that. And then I think it was late 2012 ish. I was considered no evidence of disease, or NED, as they would say. And then, yeah, you're out on your own, and it's like, hey, you lived through that so-called 5% survival rate, but then what do you do now? And I'm sure you can, identify with this, but it changes you.
Yes. So in the cardiac world, after you come out, they have cardiac rehabilitation programs and these steps you go through. So what was it like? What were the doctors telling you or prescribing for you to do from a cancer patient perspective?
You
Or
know,
what?
it's
Or was there anything except take these meds and good luck?
That was kind of it. They do have Kaiser was they were great. Now that I'm not at Kaiser and seeing how other hospitals work, I really miss Kaiser.
I see.
They have a really good system in place. However, there's not good aftercare,
Uh,
in the fact that if I go and complain about something, I can get the care that I need, but they don't know, what the long-term effects of the chemotherapy drugs, are, and the different removal of body organs are. So they don't have a good grasp on that. There's not like a good handbook to say, hey, if you do survive, here's how you're going to live the rest of your life. And that was where I really struggled, because, I, would go to the bathroom 20 times a day, like no joke, if not more. And you don't have a lot of notice. So I can't be far from a bathroom, with one lung, or at least the majority of the one lung missing. I really get really short of breath. I was having problems with fainting, and just, vasovagal responses, just bending over, getting up and almost blacking out, things like that. And it got really tough because at that point, I'm a land manager at the land trust,
Right.
managing these nature preserves. I go
Yeah,
out.
so I'm assuming you're out hiking and physical effort is part of the job description.
Yeah, yeah, I'm out there doing biological surveys. Each property, you have to hike them and take updated photos. I'm doing restoration projects, planting trees, all kinds of stuff like that. This is my dream job now. I'm like, man, I'm really getting to take care of things out here and protect things. Um, but as time went by, it just became more and more difficult. And then I start falling behind at work. And then I focus so much on like the outdoor hard stuff that it's really difficult to sit at a computer and do the paperwork side. Um, and so, yeah, depression kicks in. I can't do my job the way that I've been training to do. And, the land trust is so amazing and they put all this into you, to make you the best you can be. And I can't match that anymore. So I ended up, I quit working there. And kind of right about that time, the depression's horrible, but I'm not outdoors every day,
Mm.
because I was doing it for my job. And I really attribute that to how well I did with all the cancer treatments. Cause even with my chemo bag slung on me or a port, stuck in my jugular here to pump the chemo in, I was still out there, mending fences or doing whatever I could, outdoors. And I just didn't, I think back now that if I had been sitting in a house, in the city and just locked in my room, I don't know if I would have, stayed as healthy as I did.
Sure.
So anyway, I ended up trading in the Prius. I ended up with a Chevy Volt and yada yada. I still like the technology, still like the fuel efficiency. It was kind of cool, but I ended up with a GMC Canyon, which
Okay.
made a little bit more sense for work. So being a land manager and carrying, giant fence posts and baling wire and stuff in your Prius, you get a lot of looks when you roll up to the farm supply. They actually started calling it the King Ranch Edition Prius.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So I got the Canyon and ended up meeting, I don't know if you know him or not, but Mike Lee, he's known as Iron Horse Overland on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay.
And he was kind of an ambassador for the Overland Bound group.
Okay. Sure.
And familiar with them.
Yep.
And they wanted to start up kind of like a meeting area in Auburn, California, which is where I'm living or was living at the time. And he had a nice 5th Gen 4Runner that's all built out. And so I started hanging out with that guy. And with my wife, or at the time, just before we had gotten married, we had gotten into mountain biking. I started realizing that hiking was just too taxing.
Yeah, I'd seen you. Sorry, I'd seen you talk about that in the past. That you realized the hiking was too taxing. You tried running. That wasn't going to work with half a lung. But for whatever reason, biking became something you could do, and I believe you're still very passionate about to this day.
Yeah. So during that time, kind of that I don't know, whatever, a few years after the surgery and stuff, I had made a lot of friends at Kaiser, and they had a group they called Thrive, which was made for employees of Kaiser,
Okay.
their loved ones, to get out and do things outdoors. So they had a hiking group, a running group, all that kind of stuff. So I was hanging out with them. And I, of course, was leading the hiking groups, or at least facilitating, because I knew everything. I could tell you every single plant and all that. So it was great. So they had me try the running and all that. And that's not going to work. So fast forward, I met my future wife, and she was an ultra runner. And there's no way in hell I'm going to run. So to help kind of support her and to try to get my exercise, I bought a mountain bike. And so I would ride along with her on these trails, and be kind of like her little pack mule, bring chips and water and stuff like that. And next thing you know, we rented a bike. So her and her son and I could go riding, and the bug just kind of infected us all.
That's fascinating. it's fascinating because uh, I was also an ultra runner, and so I identify
That's cool.
with her in that I'd look at you guys on the bikes, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like I cannot fathom that. But the bikes are like, how are you guys on your feet for 30 miles? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so it's interesting.
100%.
Yeah.
And she didn't like bikes. I think her only experience really, other than being, when you're a little girl, riding the little bikes, was like what we would call a 10 speed, a road
Right.
bike, and she hated that. But we rented bikes from a local bike shop, and next thing I know, she's trying to jump off little rocks, and
Uh,
I was like, wait, this is crazy. This is like the first time you've ridden a bike, and that was it. She was hooked after that.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, so we ended up riding bikes a ton. I ended up writing and doing articles for a company called MTBR, or
Okay.
Mountain Bike Review. So the mountain bikers will know what it is. And then my wife was getting really frustrated when we were trying to buy gear for her because it was all men's stuff,
Mm,
and very few girl selections. Like there'd be 15 different kinds of men's shoes, but there'd be two women's shoes, and both have pink or baby blue or
right.
something. She's not having that. She's not. She's not that girl. She runs around the house painting everything black, and she could.
Okay.
Uh, so she got so fed up with kind of the bro mentality of the mountain bike industry that she started a women's mountain biking group,
Okay.
which turned into women's mountain bike coaching and events, where she would she would hire other coaches because they all got their certification for mountain bike coaching, and they would try to get more women on bikes and teach them how the skills they need to be safe and that sort of thing. Because if you're married, you would know this, or a longtime girlfriend, but a woman doesn't want to listen to a man tell her how to do something, but she'll listen to another woman.
Sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it worked out great, and she became pretty famous in the mountain bike world. She ended up starting a race team for the enduro races and doing downhill stuff like flinging herself off of boulders.
Oh,
And
that's freaking awesome. Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally crazy doing these race events. And yeah, and kind of got to the point where I wasn't riding as much. And, like with anything, especially running, or really any activity, the less you do it, the harder it is to maintain where you were. And I had found that I was really working really hard to just, be a normal mountain biker, let alone be good at it. And so I kind of started to lose a little interest. It became, because it starts getting more painful, or just, it's just too much exertion. I didn't quite like it as much. Then e-bikes came out. So I don't know if you're
Here we
familiar
go.
with e-bikes.
This is like the Prius and the Volt now. You're back to the
Exactly.
technology. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay.
was like, huh, okay, it's got a battery. I still have to pedal, but now I don't have to put forth as much effort. You still put down a ton of effort. The bikes are super heavy, but climbing hills, which was my nemesis because I just didn't have the lung capacity for it, became so much easier. So while my wife is doing all the racing stuff with all the women's group, and she still has her regular 9 to 5 job, by the way. This is just all stuff she does on the side.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I just ride my e-bike around, and then I started finding that getting to more and more of those places, I needed the truck. Put the
Okay.
tailgate pad on, you throw the
Yep.
bike on the back, or if she takes a women's group out for, a big ride somewhere, like we have an area called Downeyville around here that, you get dropped off and you ride 15 miles down mountain trails or whatever back to town. But it's steep, it's fast, and it can be gnarly. And if somebody gets hurt, you got to come get them.
Sure.
So there was a couple times where I'd have to drive like full on, rocky dirt trails or whatever. And I was like, man, this is cool. Most of
You're
this shit's
having
fun.
flashbacks to 12-year-old you driving the Scout. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Freaking out when my dad's, super off camber. I'm like, we're going to roll into the lake, dad, and now I'm thinking, this is pretty awesome. So yeah. So I met that guy, Mike, Iron Horse Overland, and started doing some meetings with him, for Overland Bound, here in Auburn, California, where we were trying to connect and educate other people who were new to the off-road scene.
Okay.
So, kind of tell them, give them the basics, where they can go with the rig that they have, what kind of mods they could do or should do, and most importantly, trail etiquette, and things like that, where, you got to stay on the trail. You don't make bypasses. You pick up your trash, you put out your fires, or even don't use fires when there's a ban, but a lot of trail etiquette stuff and safety. His wife was a paramedic EMT, so she would come in and do first aid classes. He was a former police officer. A lot of the overland bound crew, I feel like a lot of them come from that kind of
like
background.
first responder background.
First responder background, yeah. And so they, I learned a lot through those guys. And yeah, that's kind of where the whole overlanding thing really. I mean, I know it's such an overused word nowadays, but it fits. It's.
It's funny. I don't know if I've talked about this on here before, but when I chose the name for this, and when I'd kind of taken a 20-year hiatus from anything off-road and overlanding related, and found my way back into it, and now people were calling it overlanding instead of just camping in the truck or off-roading or mudding or wheeling or whatever. Yeah. And in my mind, off-roading or overlanding encompasses it encompasses the vehicle, it encompasses the technology, it encompasses camping. It's this whole thing. I didn't know that there was this stigma to the word, like with the hardcore wheeling guys, like that it could be a bad thing. But I'm claiming it, and I think it's a good thing, and it's a good description of the community and all the different facets of it. So I'm with you on the overland. Yeah,
I agree 100%. And sometimes I'm hesitant to use the word, but it's
in certain circles, the look you're going to get. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. 100%. And where we live here, in Grass Valley, kind of Auburn, Colfax area. I mean, we're right next to the Rubicon 4 Trail, which is really gnarly. It's like 20 minutes from my house. We have some pretty gnarly trails.
We're coming, by the way, our club is coming in 2027. We're planning our Rubicon and Fordyce run we planned it 2 years out, September of 2027. So everybody's got time to save the money and get off work and do all those things. So maybe we can meet up. All right.
Yep. Guaranteed. But yeah, so this is a great area. We have so much off-road opportunities here. I mean, it's especially in Grass Valley. If I want to go snow wheeling in the winter, I just go 10 minutes up the road and I'm in deep snow, and then having, trails like Rubicon or any of your basic overlanding trails, they're just in my backyard. So then it became I got to explore these places. And the more people you meet, the more trips they're doing. And so then you get invited, and next thing you know, you're just all over the place.
Yep.
And yeah, I met one fella, younger guy in Tacoma, because everybody has Tacomas around here.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's either that or Gen 4 runner. But, we put together a little overland trip, and it was going to be like the first trip I could consider overlanding, where you're driving for hundreds of miles on dirt and you're camping and you have these destinations in mind. And so, yeah, we started, it's they're mild trails. We were both on 33s, nothing crazy, rear locker. And I don't even think I had sliders. I think I had like Ghetto, Amazon, Tiger, Star Armor, step sliders. That's my legacy. I'll go into that one later. But to make a long story short, we ended up doing this route, made it up to this lake. And it's I think that one's at 7,600 feet elevation. Okay. And it's kind of in a little bit of a saddle. Beautiful. And you can park right on the lake, just the rocky shore and everything. And I remember thinking, the geology part of me was going, I don't think this is a good place at night.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get windy. It was dead still. But then we got sucked into, well, this is cool for the gram. This is what, 2015 or something like that.
Right.
And we're like, oh, you can get sick photos right here. You got the GMC and, his taco. had our rooftop tents, back then it was all soft shell tents, thought we were the coolest things, had us all set up, perfect view, fire in the middle.
And you're out there with like your iPhone 4 with it. You thought that camera was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, and those photos are still on my Instagram. They're way back in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's like, we should just camp right here tonight. And he's a lot younger than me, and then mature me is thinking it's not a good idea because the wind starts to gust when you're in these passes. But I thought, oh well, this is cool for the gram. Let's do it. So I threw my dog in the rooftop tent and crawled up there. And around 11 o'clock, it just started shaking the tent. The wind was so bad that you could hear it, and then you would just feel it. And I remember him yelling at me from his tent, and he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I'm like, we'll be good. Just it'll chill out after a little bit. And
It'll chill out.
Yeah. And neither of us had strapped our soft shell tents down. Those
Sure.
fold open like that. Wind gust, boom, slammed it shut on me and my dog. So now we're freaking out. The fire restoked itself. So we're like, oh my God, I got to get this fire out. We're going to start the whole Sierra Nevada on fire. We're going to be one of those guys. I go to try to get out of the tent, but I can't because when it slams shut like that, now the ladder's here. So if you try to push it, the ladder's in position. You can't get out. So it was quite the debacle to get out, put the fire out, all that. And, it's 20 something degrees. It's just freezing cold. So we ended up moving into the trees in the sheltered area, and it was so much better other than the cold. So live and learn.
So that was your first trip. Yeah. So
that was my first real overlanding trip.
Started with a bang. So that's good.
Yeah. I learned real quick. And, I didn't know if my dog could die from the temperatures because she's a border collie pit bull mix with really short fur, and she was shivering so bad. I was fearful for her. So I stuffed her in my sleeping bag.
Right.
But, she's 50 something pounds and I can't get in the bag. So I'm sleeping half out like this. She's right here. So next stop was Cabela's, and I bought a little buddy heater, to keep us going for that trip. And now I have a really big sleeping bag that's good to negative 35, and it fits so she can just crawl right in and we both sleep just fine.
Yeah. And back then you couldn't just go on Amazon and have a diesel heater at your house the next day. Those weren't as available. Yeah.
Yeah, no. That was like a good 6-7 years later.
Yeah.
Diesel heaters started popping out. So you got a Mr. Buddy heater and you'd have it blaring in your face, hoping I'm either going to die in an inferno or I'm going to freeze to death or have carbon monoxide. I don't know. So interesting first trip, but learned a lot. So yeah, it's that was kind of, once I did that, I just started going everywhere in that canyon, taking it places it probably shouldn't go. There's a trail here called Slick Rock Trail, not to be confused with anything on Moab, but it's pretty rocky. I tell people if you got, Tacoma on 33s, it's probably a little much. Usually want 35s or more and full armor, that sort of thing. And, tried to take it through anyway, broke my drive shaft, found out they're, aluminum and they got little thin wall and cardboard inside. And cardboard, no joke, man. And it had to remove the drive shaft and then had to get skull drug out by my friend's Jeep. And she was dragging me over all rocks and just all kinds of mess. Slept in a auto parts parking lot in my rooftop tent because I needed more transmission fluid to be able to get home because it was leaking without the tail shaft in.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing with the Canyon, which I guess segues kind of into the Nissan thing. I ended up crashing that. I was trying to dodge a fox on one of my commutes or my morning commute, and it zigged. I zagged, then it zigged again, and I ended up going down an embankment. I freak out with wildlife. I can't kill them. There's all kinds of pictures of me saving deer and foxes and stuff. So that ended up getting totaled, and I didn't want a car payment. That was the hardest thing, is going out wheeling and scratching a vehicle that you're paying $500 a month on, which I guess is cheap nowadays. But yeah, so we ended up My son was turning 16, so I wanted something affordable, but that he could kind of beat up on, that was easy to fix. And when he goes to college and gets a better car, I could take it from him, and
I
that
see.
would be my wheeling vehicle. And
Okay.
so I learned about Xterras and Titan swapping, whereby you take the Titan full size suspension from the front, stick it on the Xterra because it uses all the same bolt points, and now you have kind of a mid long travel on an Xterra, which I thought was kind of cool. And that would be the next upgrade because a lot of my friends were starting to do harder trails, kind of like Rubicon, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. The new generation isn't as eager to get their driver's license and drive as I was when I was a kid. It seems to be kind of a common theme. And he was kind of hemming and hawing and not really getting his license. And I didn't have a vehicle. So I basically stole the Xterra from him and started driving that and drove it around stock for a little while. And then immediately just took the money that I was getting from the Canyon crash and just dumped it into the Xterra and did a full Titan swap and, all the armor and all that.
Now, had you met Nissan folks that had kind of turned you on to the Xterra platform and the Titan swap, or did you just kind of research and fall into this? Because it seems like that Nissan knowledge, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, is maybe it's not as readily available as all the Toyota info, because there's fewer Nissan enthusiasts, and then the ones that are really willing to turn wrenches and push the limits on it. So yeah, it seems like from my friends in that community that it's a pretty niche group of, maybe even like 20 or 30 guys across the country that are all talking about, yeah, you can fit this transfer case or this front end and that kind of thing.
Yeah, full on. That's kind of what it is. And I really didn't like kind of just being part of the popular group and getting what everybody else has.
Okay. You just
So
wanted to do different. Yeah.
yeah. Like originally, I went to look at a Tacoma instead of the Canyon because that's what everybody has, and they say they're reliable. But even at 6'3", I didn't fit in them very well, and I sure as hell couldn't wear my cowboy hat with it either because I used to wear that a lot when I was doing my outdoor work. And I was like, how could you sit so low on the floor and still not have headroom? This is the weirdest thing to me. Um, so I ended up with the Canyon and loved it. It had its issues, but it was a good truck, and I was different because almost nobody was wheeling a Canyon in 2016 through 2018 ish kind of time period. And I kind of like that. I wasn't like everybody else on the trail. So when I
That's
started,
that's really an interesting choice the more I think about it, Justin, because it's something that, the Toyota guys and the Nissan guys and the Jeep guys, they don't hardly know what it is,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and then the GMC folks and the Chevrolet crew is still bitching that it's not an S10 anymore. It hasn't proved itself as a platform yet. So
right.
it's definitely kind of a marching to your own drum choice to choose there,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, occasionally you'd see a Colorado,
right?
but this is before the ZR2 came out. So even the Colorado didn't really have a name.
Yeah.
Still nobody really knew what it was. So yeah, it was just kind of different. But yeah, when I started looking for something different, I realized, well, one, I don't really like sleeping in the rooftop tent. I'd rather sleep in a vehicle. I don't like having the extra weight up top, if at all possible. And I wanted something obviously more capable and smaller. You know, e- Even at 128 inches, that was still quite a long wheelbase on
Yeah.
a Canyon. So, researching the cars that would work for my son, as well as be something that I could take on decent trails and overland with, if you will. And the more I learned about them being reliable and cheap to fix. So I started looking. I did look at like the GX 470, some of the Lexus type products, but they were almost double the price for a similar year, like say a 2005 GX 470 or
Yep.
something. Um, and yeah, it just, 17 plus grand where I could get this Xterra with the same miles on it, like say 150,000 miles, I can get it for 7 grand. It's not as cool, not as luxurious, but it's cheap. So, and you have all the bonuses of I can take that Titan swap stuff, put it on there. I can put the Titan front diff on it, which is a much bigger, beefier diff.
Oh yeah.
The rear diff in the Xterra and the Frontier basically is a Dana 44. So you're already on, good standing with that. So yeah, just researched it, ended up buying it for the kid. He ended up not getting his license soon. So I started driving it. And then it got to the point where when he finally did, we bought him a Frontier that was used. And I just kept, building up the Xterra, which I loved.
Gotcha. So was there a Titan that came into the mix too?
Yeah. So driving around the Xterra, I mean, that was my daily driver. It was my off-road rig, everything, right? And I had all these grand plans for it. I planned on never selling it because it's a fun car to drive, except it is IFS. We'll get to that.
You can change that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can change it, but on the Xterras, it's really funky because I guess the way you have to do solid axle swap, it really lifts the body up super high. And I don't know. I mean, you can do it. I wasn't a big fan of what it was going to take to do it.
Understood. Yeah.
But around that time, we weren't mountain biking as much. And my wife got back into riding horses, which she used to do in her teens. She used to barrel race. So we got a horse and a horse trailer. Now we need something to tow it with. And
I see.
She had her Honda CRV, with that. Then she switched to a Pilot. Xterra is not going to tow anything. So we ended up getting a 2021 Titan, regular one, not the XD, and drove that for a couple of years. That thing towed great. And that's where I really started to fall in love with that Nissan V8.
I see.
The VK56, 400 horsepower, 400 torque, 412 torque, whatever, with the 9-speed transmission. I was like, this thing is nice. It just, no weird shift patterns like I had with the GMC or like the Toyotas where they hunt. It was just, I was like, man, this is cool. And it was affordable. Originally, we went to go look at like a GMC Sierra. We're talking gas trucks, not diesel, because I didn't need anything that big. And everything was like 8 to 11K, whatever, more expensive and not as nice. And so it was like, wow, this is really weird. Why are Nissans so cheap? And so we drove that. I think we had that for probably like, I'm gonna say like 20,000 miles, something like that.
Okay.
No issues other than like one little body panel thing by a window was flapping, but easy fix. No issues. But then we decided we needed a little more overlanding type vehicle. And I was watching a lot of the Aussie YouTube videos. You know where I'm going with this.
Oh, I know where that influence comes from. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you got, I started making friends with some of the guys down there, like 101 Perspective. His is mildly built, but he has exhaust on it. His Y62 Patrol.
Yeah.
And I go, oh my God, I want one of those. And we thought it would be perfect because my wife could drive it. It's got all the luxury, got tons of power. It has the towing capability for the horse trailer and the single horse. The only drawback to it is that it's independent rear suspension. And we already have enough issues with IFS, but I go, the Aussies are doing it. So why can't we do it? I'm not trying to rock crawl with this thing. So we traded in the Titan and came home with a 2023 Nissan Armada. It's basically a Y62 platform from Nissan and is in most respects identical to the Patrol, except that the diffs aren't as big. Particularly the rear. The rear is a really beefy diff, and it doesn't have the rear locker. Other than that, same engine, same body. We had the better interior than they did.
I feel like I'm talking to my friend Ethan because I've had this same conversation with him. It's and in the Toyota community, we've got those. It's basically a Land Cruiser stickers that our buddy Steve came up with. Yours it's basically a Patrol. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it. You could hear it as I was building up, getting ready to just present it. It's the same. But
yeah.
So anyway, and we bought this, and then I have a friend who runs the second gen Armada group on Facebook. He's also on Instagram as 2Gen Armada, and he's really into him. So he hooked me up with another friend of his who was going to start or wanted to start importing the Dash Off-Road products from Australia for the Y62
Okay.
because we didn't really have any bumper options
Right.
for the newer ones, especially. I think there was ARB, and that was like basically it. And not everybody wants that giant ARB bull bar style. Um, so it was like, hey, do you want to do some R&D with us? Because there are slight differences because of crash testing and all that. They're very similar, but they didn't know if their bars would fit. So yeah, I got to talking to Matt at Campsite 204, and he was going to work with Dash to get a bumper sent to me, and then I'm going to document the install process, see how the fitment goes, and then give all that feedback so they can make changes that were needed for the patrol products overseas to be sold here. So yeah, next thing you know, the Armada, it went from looking like the soccer mom car to now looking like one of the Aussie patrols, with 35s and nice fancy wheels and the bull bar with a winch and reef rack and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it work out as far as the fitment? Was it as close as they thought it would be?
I got sent the wrong bumper, so the fitment wasn't so much the issue as it was a different design bumper,
Oh,
and it was made for a bigger bull bar in the front.
okay.
So it had a huge lip that stuck out. So instead of having the flat front grille that you would have on the Armada, it would come down and then came way out, like 8 inches or something. Like I joked that it was like Bubba, with the big giant bottom lip, going to get caught on a tripwire kind of thing. It was horrible. Looked cool from the front, but as soon as you look at it from the side,
Oh, I see.
yeah, I was like, I mean, if it was on the rear, you could use it as like a picnic table or something. But anyway, they ended up getting me the correct one, and there were some minor changes, like the Armada doesn't have the little pop out windshield wiper washers like you would see on Mercedes or something. So delete those holes, that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
my 15-year-old Lexus has those, but I'm just saying. I mean, old.
yeah, yeah. Do we want to start talking about when the Toyota got Apple CarPlay?
No, we do not. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. Because
yeah.
my GMC had it way back in the day.
Fair.
You guys,
Yeah.
okay, we won't go there.
Yeah,
So
I
anyway.
think Lexus was actually, I don't remember the model. I want to say it was the ES350. This is a side note trivia. Was the last model in North America sold with a cassette player, because they had so many of the senior citizen demographic that was buying those ES cars, and so they held the cassette player forever. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good tech tip.
Yep.
So yeah, anyway, the Armada was great. We still have it. It doesn't have a locker, so it's a little more limited. And the big selling point on it, because by this time I'm already working at Dissent Off-Road. And
Okay.
if any of the listeners know Dissent, it's mainly Land Cruisers and other little various Toyota products and now a Grenadier, that sort of thing. But it's a Land Cruiser shop. So I'm working there, as the token Nissan boy, which thankfully they didn't make me park behind the shop. They'd still let me park outside. But I guess everybody's got to have, one of those little token guys. But I really wanted to, at the time, sorry, let me backtrack. At Descent, Ben has different shop cars that were all done up, wrapped with all of our gear on them. And he
Right.
had, I think it was like a 2015 200 series. That thing was beautiful. Had an orange wrap on it with big Descent letter.
I remember that truck. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember it, yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful truck. And so I'd see this all the time, and I, drive it when it needs to be taken around the block, whatever. And I'm like, this would be cool. And then I saw the price tag. So yeah, sticker shock even used was just mind boggling. And my wife wanted a new car. She didn't want to deal with used. And so, yeah, cross shopping around, even like a Ford Expedition, 80 grand. it was insane because I needed to have at least 8,000-pound towing capacity. So that puts us in that range. Sequoia had just come out.
Now, was the Sequoia still independent rear as well, or this was no? This is the new generation with the solid rear end. Okay.
Yep. So Ben got one of those, one of the first ones.
Oh yeah,
because I think he had it shipped from somewhere back east. I feel bad not remembering the dealer name, but like Indiana or something.
I'm gonna guess that was Ed Martin Toyota.
It was Ed Martin.
Yeah,
I should have known that because I was blanking out. But yes. Anyway, good call. So he got it from Ed Martin.
All right, I'll let you keep talking, Justin. Folks, if you're listening to this, my audio is here, but my camera keeps disappearing, so he can't see me. So I'm going to try to turn it off and back on here.
Okay, so Ben had it shipped. He picked it up in Reno during a snowstorm and got it back to the shop. And I thought, this is pretty cool. Maybe this will be our vehicle. He had a TRD Pro, and I thought, it's $75K for the TRD Pro. But once I opened the hatch and saw how the layout was for the cargo area and the seating, it was instantly a no-go because I needed to have a full flat back end for us to be able to sleep in, my wife and I, and then, maybe a dog or two. So it brought us back to Nissan again, which, I wasn't trying to be a Nissan guy, but I was like, well, the Patrol is pretty cool. And, this car was $59K. It already had like a 6 or 7K price reduction on it. And it was super nice, full leather and at the midnight package. And it was just really nice. And good power. So I just couldn't fathom spending the money on like a 200 series or even the Sequoia. And like I said, even dipping into the Ford, I thought, oh, that would be cheaper. No. And you know how Yukons and all that are. They were all like in the 70 to 90K range, which
for brand new. I mean, there's nothing under that $60,000 mark in that size. No, not anymore.
No. And so anyway, we ended up with the Armada, and it was great. It towed the trailer. It had plenty of power. It didn't have the stability that we were looking for, that the Titan did. And I remember the Titan and the Armada share the same engine.
Yeah.
Transmission's different in the Armada. They still have the old 7-speed, whereas the Titan had the newer 9-speed. So the low end was a little bit better on the Titan because of the first and second gear range. But it wasn't that. It wasn't the power. It had plenty of power. It's just as you get up to speed, the shorter wheelbase, you could feel more movement in the trailer.
I'm really surprised. I thought with that independent rear, it would drive really nice on the road, but you think it's the wheelbase that bit you?
I think it's both, actually.
Oh, okay.
The independent rear, and this is something I found out later, especially talking to the Aussies, it's real finicky about alignment. And so when you start changing that alignment pattern, it can really do weird things with the car and drivability. So when you put that trailer on, now it's going to squat. And so even with the airbag suspension or air shocks that it comes with, it wasn't enough to get it fully back where it's supposed to be. And then when it does squat, like you hit a bump, that's going to cause things to wheel about. And so that's my biggest gripe with the Armada. It's just that rear end. It's just so finicky. So my wife didn't feel comfortable driving it compared to the way she was able to tow with the Titan, like all the way down to SoCal, 14-hour drive through canyon roads with the horse in the back and had no problems.
I see.
The Armada, so it had the power and all that, just the drivability with the trailer just wasn't cutting it. And then come along, she decides she's going to get another horse because I guess that's what happens. It's kind of like bikes. It's right. The perfect number of bikes, or in this case, we could say Land Cruisers or whatever, is N+1, whereas N is the current number of whatever you own, right?
And they continue to get more expensive as you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So she ends up, she gets another horse, and we end up selling her smaller horse trailer and getting a bigger, heavier horse trailer. And at that point, there's just
the Armada. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just not safe. So enter truck shopping. Yeah. but we're not going to replace a vehicle. This is going to be in addition to. So we were going to, get like an Uncle Jesse style old pickup, that we could tow with, whatever. And then you start going down the rabbit hole of which ones to buy, because there's no perfect model or year or engine configuration, like throughout time. So if you look at it like, okay, we can only afford X amount of dollars. So that puts us into like a 2000, say 4 to 2007, full-size 2500 something.
Okay. Yep.
Right? So that puts us in there. But then there's certain years and models you don't want to buy in there because they had engine problems, oil leaks, whatever. Whether it's
they've all been out long enough now that we know something on it. Nothing hits all the boxes. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and as you keep going through the years, it's like, okay, well, what if we get something that's newer and used? And then I'm like, oh, but I really want the 6.2 liter, Chevy engine, because that's pretty badass. I don't want the, I can't afford a diesel. That was always out. The 2500 series with diesels were just too expensive still.
I had a 6.2 and then I went back to a 6 liter and I regretted it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I got the horsepower thing going, I got to have some good power. And so as you shop, you just start talking yourself into something more and more expensive, and newer and newer. And now it's going to be my daily driver because I keep breaking the Xterra. So, because it's a theme with me, breaking stuff.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Race cars or off-road cars. So yeah, we keep shopping and here we go again, back to the Titan. Because then I had really realized or come to the realization they had the XD, which is kind of like their heavy duty version. So it's not quite a 2500 series, 3/4 ton, but it's also not a half ton. It's a tweener.
Hey, I tell you what, that's what Ian Johnson pulls with, and Ian swears by that truck, and if he gives it his stamp of endorsement, that's pretty good.
I saw when you picked that up, and I was like, good choice. Good choice. So anyway, this vehicle had a longer wheelbase, which kind of sucks from, the overlanding perspective. I got to remember, this is a tow truck, right? This is supposed to be my tow truck. So we start shopping around for him, and, here we are. If I can find a 100,000 mile Titan XD, really good condition with the gas engine, because you don't want the diesel. They had issues with that Cummins diesel, so it's not the greatest choice. And a Pro 4X, which for people who don't know Nissan, Pro 4X means you get the rear locker, the rear electric locker. So yeah, found this great 100,000 mile, super clean body. Like I couldn't even find scratches on it. Pro 4X Titan XD ended up being, the tow rig. So that I have zero problems with, tow's great, but, the Nissan's still broken and snow wheeling season's coming up because I had broken the locker in the Xterra. And, what are you going to do? I can't roll around with like little tiny 33s on this truck came with a 3-inch lift. So, and the XD Titan is already 3 inches taller than the regular Titan. So now it looks like it's got little skateboard wheels. Very much Rodozer type.
Sure.
So, and it's funny because you mentioned Zachary Deal. So I knew that he was working with, I think he was working with Hankook at the time on something for SEMA. And so I just kind of hit him up. We're friends through Dissent and all that. I was like, hey, if you happen to find any 35s or 37s for cheap, let me know. I got a new truck and I need something because this car, it has issues. It was rubbing real bad. He had a horrible offset wheel on, whatever. So Zach messaged me and hooks me up with Justin Friedman.
Mm-hmm.
And turned out they had some leftover stuff at Donut.
Oh, nice.
That they were using on their Blue Ranger project.
Okay. Yep.
They switched tire brands and whatnot, but they ended up having something there for me. And so for a contribution to Donut, I was able to walk away with some 37-inch Yokohamas.
There you go.
For the Titan. So slap on some new wheels, and here, now I got a Titan on 37. So why not go snow wheeling? So I spent all last year snow wheeling with Ben from Dissent. And if you're familiar with last year, he was really mostly running the Land Cruiser 250 on portals with the 40-inch tires. So I did a lot of plowing behind him. Those portals have a lot of clearance.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I ended up. And the thing's never given me a problem. Even the Armada has, I think, 35,000 miles on it now. Something like it's never been to the dealer. No recalls, no, weird things that I've had issues with. It just goes. Which was the other reason I wanted the Titan. It's got that tried and true 5.6 liter V8 that's been around forever. Like 2004, 2005.
Oh yeah, yeah, long time.
There's changes they do to it, but it's a damned reliable motor and it makes excellent power. Fuel economy kind of sucks, but that comes with the territory.
Remember when other manufacturers used to do that? Used to find a motor, a platform that works and stick with it for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, not have to change it every 5 years just to piss us off.
Yeah, like the 100 series with the Tundra, with the 200. That was an excellent engine. That gets me to the 80 series, which is where I'm at now.
So Justin, had you? I'm not sure in the timeline. When did you start working at Dissent? How did that evolve? And then did the Toyota bug start rubbing off on you, being around all those Land Cruisers?
That sounds dirty. So I had to quit the land trust.
Okay.
And then I tried just being home for a while. But my wife works from home and she doesn't want me around all day. So I needed daddy daycare, basically, as she called it. And I had a wheeling group that we all, talk on Slack and set up trips and stuff like that. And he worked at Dissent in the marketing department. And I said, hey, you guys got anything I can do like a few hours a day or something like that? Just because, I have these issues,
right,
where I can't be somewhere where I can't just go, hey, I got to go to the bathroom and just run and go. I can't sit at a computer for too long because I just end up with like neck issues and stuff. And then part of the chemotherapy, the lung, whatever, affects how long I can stay awake. So somewhere around noon to 1 o'clock, I'm like really diving off. I can't function anymore. I need a nap, which really screws up your ability to work normal jobs. So Phil brought me in, I talked to Ben and they had, a job doing, assembling hardware kits, and putting together swing arms, stuff like that, that I could do, for as long as I could be there for. It wasn't like the super critical job, like the welding and powder coating, all that. So yeah, I started working there. I don't even remember when that was, 2020.
Okay.
Like that. Maybe 2021. Time flies.
When it does. Yeah.
So yeah, I started working there and yeah, we did a lot of Toyota stuff, had to learn a lot about the Land Cruisers, which was cool because then it made me more interested in the Nissan variant, which is the Patrol, overseas, particularly the old ones like a GQ or a GU Patrol, that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I couldn't afford a Toyota. They were all so expensive. And yet now here I am working part-time, just to kind of make ends meet. So, but they were really cool. And I started learning more about, how the armor is made, especially the modular systems, which for some reason I thought that they were inferior, back in the day. Like I didn't understand that modular could actually be so strong and have certain advantages. So yeah, I just started learning a ton there and driving my, Xterra and my Titan and my Armada going, well, guess we're never going to make Nissan armor, huh? And so, yeah, it got to a point where Ben bought, I think it's a 97, what was that, a 45th anniversary edition?
Yes.
Something like that, the 80 series.
40th anniversary, yeah.
40th, yes.
Yep.
He had a black one, I should say. He had a black one that didn't have real running gear in it, but it had all of the armor. You actually can see it on the website because it was one of the original builds. And I spent countless hours trying to correct the paint on that thing because it was horrible. There was just patina everywhere. And in my mind, patina's bad. Well, now I like patina. But I started liking that car. I was like, this is kind of cool, and it kind of looks like a GU Patrol. People are going to get mad at me for that.
Oh, yeah. They're already riled up. Yeah.
Yes. Rolling of eyes. But whatever. It's a sped body plan or whatever. But then he bought that 40th and, with a 3-inch lift, he slapped 38s on it. It's already triple locked. He had RCB axles on it, but a very minimal build. He started designing our extreme clearance series, front and rear bumpers, which are basically as minimal as you can get without being a tube style. No swing arms on the back, anything. And then I started going out on trips with him. About this time, I had taken over as the social media guy there. Still doing the hardware kits, still doing assembly of parts, accessories, things like that. But now I got to go out on trips and get footage. And so I'm going, on Fordyce, Rubicon, Moab, just all these places. And this 80 is just impressing me because it's simple. There's like not much to it. I mean, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, yes, it has mods, it has gears and, some good axles in it and stuff, but it's not a crazy build. And this thing is just super capable.
I'm telling you, I'm smiling because we have this conversation here all the time. I mean, the 80 is just, it's just special, man. I mean, you can, if you want to keep it pretty, you can keep it pretty. If you're willing to cut a little on those fenders and shove the 37s under there, and you can get by with just doing the low gear and the transfer case, not touching the differentials and rock and roll. It's ready to go.
Yes. So. I just had no idea, and it's durable for what it is. I mean, yeah, it's not a rock bouncer, but compared to anything IFS, it's way more durable.
Well, we try to treat them like rock bouncers over here. So they kind of identify. You may have seen footage. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. And it's not just the 80s that you guys do that with. I see the 100 series doing that. Patch is notorious. And Lee, oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, you guys, that's IFS, bro. You can't do that. So anyway, yeah, just driving around and going to different, trails and things with Ben, and then snow wheeling was pretty incredible too, because I snow wheel a lot.
Okay.
At the GMC, that's how I learned to winch so much. I ended up teaching like little workshops on how to winch properly and things, because you spend so much time, winching snow wheeling. You can learn in 2 seasons what takes people 10 years to learn on.
Sure.
Because you don't do it that often. So yeah, I guess fast forward, my nephew was in high school and he bought an old Frontier, used one, and he was driving it around. I, send him like little cheapy lights and stuff that he could put on it and things. And some old lady sideswiped it when it was parked on the road. And I kind of made a joke with him, and he's like, man, I can't find anything, cool. Tacomas are expensive. And I said, well, are any of the GXs in his price range? No. And he couldn't find anything. And I said, well, if you come up with 10 grand, I'll sell you the Xterra. Now, market, wise, it was I probably could have got 15 for it.
Sure.
Everything that was done, but it's my nephew.
Yep.
And I didn't think he was going to come up with 10K. So I felt it was a pretty safe thing, to say. He texted me like 5 days later or something. He goes, "You still want to sell it?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "They gave me 10K for his little Frontier. It was a 2003. Sorry, Nolan, but it wasn't a nice Frontier. But they gave him 10K for that thing." And I'm like, now I'm stuck. I can't go back on my word. I can't do it. And it's staying in the family. So there's that. So I gave him the right of first refusal.
There you go. Yeah, I knew that.
If you're going to sell it, I get to buy it back first. So yeah, in the process of selling it to him, he was going to graduate. So, he needed to come down. He was up in Northern California. So in that time period, I'm now searching for 80s because that's the only thing I can, just conceptually think it can do everything that I want to do. Because now I'm hanging out with Ben and like Dimitri from Stellar Bill. Zachary now has an 80. All these guys that have these capable rigs, the minimum tire size is 37. I'm like, I can't do that in an IFS rig. Okay, yes, you can before people get mad. But as you know, it's much more likely to break, or you have to have deep pockets, for something like 74 well portals or whatever. So for me, best bang for buck and upgradability in the future was an 80. Just period. I love the 100 series. Ben has a 100 series that I drove around a lot. And I think it was on 34s for the longest time when I was driving it. And then he ended up cutting the fenders all up and put 38s on it. And it totally transformed that rig. And I really liked the 100. It was super comfortable. But it's IFS.
It's IFS and it's torsion bar IFS.
And it's torsion bar. Yeah. So
sorry, 100 guys. Yeah. But they know. They all
my buddy Caden will kill me for it because I always tell him, don't get rid of your car. It's all going to be Black Hills Hyundai, but on Instagram, just the coolest kid. And, he's got his on 37s now and he's building it up. And I love the 100. But yeah.
Well, we've got a couple of guys, Alex and our buddy Zach Burns over here now that are doing the coil swap onto the 100 series, basically taking 200 series or Tundra coils and getting rid of the torsion bars on the 100s. So
yeah, that's super sweet. And then there's that long travel kit that I think is.
I've seen that floating around as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see because there's a lot of advantages to the 100 series. Namely the V8, but yeah, so I started searching for 80 series and people want good money for those things.
Sure.
And thankfully in my area, there are quite a few, and they're all rust free for the most part. So something you guys do, I got a friend in New Jersey right now that's been searching for the guy with the Armada. He's actually wants an 80 series now. And he keeps sending me links and it's like, oh my God, that thing how is it even holding together?
Yeah. We're generally okay in our part, but you get north of Kentucky and those trucks that have made their way down. No, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not even worth it. I can't even imagine trying to take anything apart on those.
Yeah.
So yeah, before I even fully had gotten rid of the Xterra, I already jumped, and started talking to a guy in Tahoe that had one. It was actually like his grandma, and she had lived in San Bernardino.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
It was the total fairy tale story.
Right.
Had all the paperwork and all this kind of stuff. Top half of the engine was rebuilt. I thought, this is too good to be true. So talked to the guy quite a bit. There were some little things on it that weren't as nice as I was hoping, and I didn't quite have the asking price, but we worked out a deal and I got this car. So I bought a 93 80 series 1FC, and because I wanted to avoid, the really anemic engine. So I only wanted like the partially anemic. I would have liked to add a 95 plus to get the OBD2. But this was the best deal I could find that was in my price range, and it was still super clean with zero rust. So, and I got that home, took it to work the next day because you got to show it off, especially if you work at a Toyota place. And as I was getting ready to, Ben looked it over. He's all, this is actually pretty clean. The paint's just good enough that it looks real good and it's shiny, but not enough to where you're going to worry about getting pinstripes. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right, because it was still a shiny green. But that day, as I was leaving, I had my coffee mug, grabbed my flannel, and was heading out. And at this point, Ben had sold his black 80 to Zachary Deal. And all the armor that was on that black one was sitting on a pallet. And I wasn't thinking about it because I'm like, I can't really afford our armor. It's really nice stuff. Um, and as I was leaving, Ben looked at the pallet and he was like, "Do you want to put the bumper on?" And I was like the front bumper, like that one? He goes, "Yeah, it'll take an hour. It's already put together because it's modular, but
Right.
just unbolted it with the winch still in it and some lights and everything." And I'm like, "You bet your ass I want that." Like in my mind, I was debating, oh, do I get like our extreme clearance one, which I love the design, or do I go the classic bull bar style? And it's still minimalist, but it has the nice big bull bar.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, needless to say, I text my wife, "I'm gonna be a little late, honey, because I'm getting a bumper right now." So literally not even 24 hours of ownership, and I had already ripped off the front
That's awesome.
bit
Yeah.
front bumper, stuck this giant bull bar with the winch on it. Um, and it still had factory springs and stuff. So now it's like kind of squatting even more.
Yeah.
And I took it wheeling. So, because
Sure.
that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Yeah. And my buddy had an unfortunate incident. He had a Titan swapped Frontier, full V8 swap as well, big custom camper and all that. And he had an incident at a water crossing, and it took his car. So it was underwater. And we needed to do a recovery. So I brought Ben in the LC 250 and another friend. And we went to go recover this vehicle from underwater. And all I have is, now I got the 80. And the entrance is by Fordyce Trail. So you got to kind of go a little part of it or whatever. And here I am in this thing with, stock running boards, 32-inch tires in this heavy bull bar. And I'm just, scraping on stuff, but the articulation is just freaking me out. Cause I'm like, I feel like I'm leaning way more, but I'm going, right? It was just I have traction. And this thing is not a triple locked version. It's just the center diff lock. So it was just blowing my mind. Like even on this, this was not a hard trail by any means. But bone stock with very mild all terrains on it. I was just like, oh, this car is sick. And I guess like the coolest part was the fact I don't have to ask it for permission to do anything, right? Like Nate would say from Dirt Lifestyle, right? He would say that these new cars, you have to like ask for permission and perform some, voodoo to make
You're right. Yeah.
No, I just stick it neutral. I just grab the stick down there and I go, I want 4 low. Done. It was the coolest thing. At that point, I was hooked. We ended up recovering my friend and, going out, getting out of there. Aussies call them wombat holes. I don't even know what we call them, but when you have 2 holes that are offset and it just throws off the chassis, that was when I realized it didn't have A-TRAC.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I ran out of articulation, on the stock suspension and small tires. And I got into that situation where both tires, front passenger and then rear driver started spinning. And I just stayed in it because I was waiting because Nissan has their version of A-TRAC, which is very good, not quite as good as A-TRAC, but pretty damn close. And normally you could just stay in it, hold it about 2,000 RPM, it'll catch. It just kept spinning. Like, what the hell are you doing? You don't have A-TRAC. You don't have lockers either. So, yeah, hence new tires came soon.
That's a good story. But yeah, I mean that's the nature of the 80, right? It just I
don't know how to explain it. It's old, it's archaic, it's heavy, feeling anyway. I mean, my Xterra probably weighed the same amount, but it's just a much heavier feeling vehicle, the solid front axle. I took it on another trip, Niagara Rim Trail up here. It's not a gnarly trail. It's fairly easy. Most people, there's only like 2 lines that are rough if you have less than 33-inch tires, like say at Tacoma or something. But I followed all my friends through all the crazy stuff, and here I am in this still stock, 80, and they were just going, "Oh my God, that thing's still going," like able to do all this stuff, and it's just blowing my mind. And I'm like falling in love with this thing more and more. I did end up in a spot where I banged part of the lower body because I didn't have sliders yet and was getting a little overzealous with the throttle, smoking the tires on an obstacle. But um, and then because I camp inside the vehicle, I discovered the split tailgate,
Ah,
and that was game changing. Like the Xterra had the big hatch, I have my bed and everything, but the split tailgate for overlanding, camping, whatever, it's just amazing. And I never understood why people were so upset that all the new Land Cruisers don't have it.
furious and still are. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, I can't say that like I'm a Toyota convert, but I do have a much better appreciation for Toyota products, especially working at Dissent, because
Sure.
we're tearing apart $130,000 brand new cars, and it's just interesting to see the build quality compared to some of our other vehicles we have out there on the market.
So what's next for the 80? What's the next big thing?
So the 80 came together quick. I bought it in May. Like I said, 24 hours later, it already had a front bumper. Because Zachary wanted to use the extreme clearance stuff for his donut build, I end up, and because I do all the social media and a lot of the marketing photos and content, it just made sense to grab the old stuff off the Ben's old 80 and slap it onto mine.
Well, of course it did. Yeah.
Perfect. It's already there. And we don't have to offset any customers. I don't have to wait in line for anything, because that's not fair either. So cool. Now I got bumpers, just talking to more people. Okay, let's get suspension on it. I got to get some wheels and tires. Took a big gamble on the 5215 analog HD wheels. I don't know if you saw them on the page, but
those worked out really well.
I was scared to death. It's like, I'm not usually into like the big retro kind of moon eye solid wheel. And then talking to the guys over there, they're like, it'll look good. Trust us. And yeah, totally love the wheels. So, I mean, it's still not, still don't have lockers other than the center diff lock. But I did slap 37s on it, and with the zero offset wheels, which I guess isn't real common with 80 people, they tend to like more offset. At least that's the way it seems, like -18, -20, something like that, which is cool for wheel poke. But a lot of the modern Toyotas, especially the ones we're working out with Dissent, anything that's like kind of 2020 and above, they're getting like positive 60 offset wheels from the factory.
Oh yeah, the 200s were plus 50, I believe. I mean, that's starting in 2008 at plus 35, plus 50, the 200 and the Tundra. So yeah.
Yeah. So, what we're having to deal with is a lot of these wheel manufacturers are used to selling wheels that are on the high side plus 20, but more commonly it's like 0 or -20 or something like that. And that doesn't work on these new Toyotas because you'd have to cut so much of your fenders and wheel wells to fit a big tire. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I ran into the same thing when I switched this last go around. I really, really wanted a set of bead locks, but go try to find a set of 5 on 150 bead locks in a positive offset without having them custom made and paying $1,000 a piece. So I ended up with the bead grips, and I've been thrilled with how those have performed. But yeah, there's all these Brodozer options out there, but there's nothing for guys that are actually going to use it.
Right. And I mean, that's when I bought my Titan XD, it had a -18 offset wheel, a 20-inch, and it had 33-inch tires, and it was rubbing the hell out of the fender well. I mean, and this is a vehicle that has a big fender well to begin with. I thought, how the hell are you rubbing a 33 that bad? Which is partially why I got a discount on the truck, but took those wheels off, get a negative or positive 20 or a positive 25, and now I can fit a 37.
Right.
And this is something like Kai talks about, Tinker.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. His Tundra, it's very similar story. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can get away with a lot because lifts aren't for putting bigger tires per se, right?
Yeah.
They can help, but everybody thinks, oh, I got to do, a 10-inch lift to be able to put this. No, you don't.
Not on IFS. Yeah, that's a whole class in itself. That yeah,
Exactly. And without getting too much into that, on the 80, I'm still new to that. I'm still new to solid axle. I've never actually wheeled a solid axle vehicle before, but knowing what I know with what we do at Dissent, like all of these new cars, like the LX 700H, the GX 550, the LC 250, we're not putting zero offset wheels on them. We're putting positive 35, positive 40 or 45 in some cases to be able to fit that big tire, because you want the tire to fit in, as close to you
right.
can to the flush to the wheel well, because you want it to be able to go inside. If you have the wheel sitting way out, now you got to cut a bunch of stuff on that upper fender if you want to keep your travel.
Yeah, and believe it or not, those guys that are buying $130,000 truck don't want to cut their fenders like we'll just take a angle grinder to it and be done with it. Yeah,
Right.
fair enough.
Well,
Yeah,
and even in my 80, it was like I paid $9,000 for this thing. It's not an expensive car, but to me, it's kind of expensive.
fair.
And it's a nice car. I don't want to just take a jigsaw or angle grinder and just chop my fender out to fit a 37, which conventional wisdom would tell you needed to do. And so I didn't. I got a wheel offset that would fit, 37, 12 and a half, an aggressive one. It's a trail grappler. So it's got meaty tread on it. And it actually didn't rub at all. I took the what do you call it? The running boards off.
Mhm.
So that helps. And then I had the front bumper. But as far as the fender well was concerned, I was driving around for weeks, had zero issues. It wasn't until I went out, took a, overlanding, off-roading, and I was hitting bumps because I don't have extended bump stops yet. And then I started hitting the back of the wheel well. But other than that, it wasn't touching, and that's a 37. Normally to fit a 37, even like a 100 series, you'd have to cut the hell out of those fender wells.
Oh, yeah.
Here I was with just, a 3-inch lift, and I was just golden.
Well, remember there was that that orange 80 that Nate and Dirthead Dave built that they fit 39s on.
Yeah. And then they took it through Fordyce.
Yeah, so it can be done. Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. So yeah, long story short, you put the lift on it, the wheels and tires, and everywhere I've gone with it, I haven't done any of the hard trails because I didn't have sliders yet. So I didn't really want to wreck the body, but got pretty darn good clearance, even without it. But everywhere I went, and I was expecting to have to hit the locker like I would have in the Xterra on 35s, I was just articulating through stuff and just crawling with the crimpy tires and the live axles. And every time I take it out now, like, it just boggles my mind. And now I have one of those wolf box cameras.
Yeah.
The damn thing records all the audio. So anytime I do something that I think is cool, then I got to listen to myself going, holy cow, that was rad. Or, oh, my other car couldn't do this. Or, wow, maybe Land Cruisers are cool. So, yeah, if you see any of those videos and there's music over it, it's because I'm not wanting to listen to myself being all flabbergasted at how cool an Iggy is.
I like it. All right. Justin, this has been really good, buddy. I appreciate you again coming on and kind of sharing your whole journey. And I think there's definitely pieces and facets that we can all identify with, and hopefully, folks can take some inspiration from in how you've battled through some real adversity and continue to do so. But you haven't let that prevent you from getting out there and enjoying these outdoors and this nature just like you were when you were 12 years old. So it's a really cool story, man. I appreciate you sharing it.
No, thank you. And I appreciate being able to tell it, because I know there's people out there like me, or there's going to be people like me. And, you say that I continue to be able to get out there and do it, but I fundamentally think that the reason I'm still here is because I go out and do it. It's that nature healing.
There you go.
You got to have it. Doesn't matter whether you're rock crawling, overlanding, playing on fire roads or what. Just go get some dirt under your tires and, soak up all the good vibes.
I love it. Well, all right, we're gonna run through these rapid fire questions before I let you go here. So, all right, number one, favorite off-road trail snack.
Man, I don't chips, I guess. I don't really have a major trail snack.
Well,
At
like
least
if
none
you're
that
going, you stop at the convenience store, like you're about to hit the trailhead. What are you going to go in and grab?
Pringles.
Pringles. Okay.
They're not even my favorite chip, but for some reason it just works off-roading.
Because it didn't
Because
get,
of the
you can
can.
throw it in the back and it bounces around and doesn't get crushed like a bag. I
Yep.
don't disagree.
And
Yeah.
in the 80, it sits right in the little area between where the handbrake is. So
There you
it
go.
actually is, it's perfect, and it's easy to feed one to my dog when she's riding shotgun.
Nice. All right. If you could only listen to one artist or one album while you're out on the trail for a day.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
That's a new
I
take.
love,
Okay.
like movie scores.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to a variety of everything: country, rap, whatever, South African kwaito, reggaeton, whatever. But if I had to pick one, that would probably be it. It's some type of a movie score. I just find those very uplifting, and it's
Yeah.
distracting when I'm off road. Sometimes it can be kind of fun, when you're conquering obstacles.
That's what I was thinking. I may have to try that. I may have to cue this up. I've never thought about having movie score music to set the trail mood, but I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, and you can switch it up. It's just kind of fun. You're doing kooky stuff and getting into trouble, and you put on Pirates of the Caribbean. You're just feel like a little swashbuckling hero as you make your way to the trail. So goofy, but yeah, that'll be my jam.
All right. DeWalt or Milwaukee?
If I could afford either one, Milwaukee.
All right.
But
So
I
you're
have a garage full
a
of
door
Ryobi.
number 3. What was it?
I got a garage full of Ryobi.
Okay. Okay. There you
But
go.
if I had to pick quality, then yes, I would pick the Milwaukee.
Yeah. Okay.
Remember, I'm a Nissan guy, bro.
Oh, that's true. It all makes sense. It all makes sense. All right. This next question, I know the answer to because I remember you posting a funny reel about it at one time, and you may remember it as well. But manual or automatic for off-roading?
Okay. I'll preface it with my choice, right? Automatic all the way, because the control and whether I'm doing it because or anybody else is doing it, I hate watching manuals do this little back and forth movement, looking like one of those snipes in the middle of the road where they're like trying to get over. I'm like, just do the damn obstacle. And an automatic gives you all the control you need. I'm sure manual is probably more fun, but whatever. I'm going to pick automatic. But to be fair, and to be 100% honest, because my boys at Dissent Off-Road are going to call me out on this, because anytime we get a manual in the shop and they ask somebody to pull it out, it can't be me because I can't drive a stick.
Oh.
I owned a manual once, and after 2 weeks, I got rid of it. So I did drive it around. I can technically drive it, a manual, but not well. And I attribute that to all my years drag racing, because manuals weren't the thing to have in drag racing, and then just never had a car with a manual after that. So I know I'm going to take some heat for that, quite a bit of heat, but at least I'm being honest.
Hey, there you go. Man enough to admit it. That makes the fact that and do you remember the reel I'm talking about where Harry Wagner had posted about the benefits of driving a manual,
Yep.
and then you called him out on it? That makes it even funnier now.
Yeah. Because then, and he knows as well that I can't drive. So then it's like,
Right.
Kind of one of those, oh, it looks like I'm just talking smack. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but I am also a moron and can't drive one. So even my wife makes fun of me, but whatever, man. I'm honest to the public.
There you go. All right. Last question, Justin. So being at Dissent, you've talked about all these different rigs that either shop trucks or trucks that come through the shop. So if there's only one rig that's come through that shop or has been built in that shop that you could steal for the weekend to hit the trail with, not worrying about what you break on it, which one are you choosing?
See, you just threw that little part back in there about not worrying what I break because you've got that 700H, that's fully built up. That's a tough one. I would say the teal LC 250.
Okay.
The 250 is not necessarily my favorite car. I just don't like the feel of the drivetrain. Same goes with the 6th gen 4Runner. It's just, I like having a V8. But that thing has massive amounts of clearance. If you guys have seen it, it's on 40s. It has portals. The lift is minimal because you're getting all the lift from the portals.
From the portal, yeah.
But seeing what he can do with that thing, and especially now, because the first year or two, we were just running around doing basic stuff. I'd say basic stuff, Fordyce, Rubicon, and tons of snow wheeling in that thing. And because I'm the one following him, he's leaving mounds of snow behind him because the undercarriage has so much clearance that I'm on 37s in the Titan, or worse yet in the Xterra on 35, just plowing this stuff. The clearance is amazing. We took it to Moab this past year, and if you saw that video, it did a flop. It had issues because it didn't have a front locker, whereby when you get that tall, especially with IFS, you tend to like to wave. And when you have a front locker, and it helps to maintain traction up front and grip into the ground and keep the front end down.
And at the time, there wasn't a locker available on the market for that ring and pinion, right?
No, not at all. That's why he ran so long without it. And so for around here, it was amazing what it could do. Then when we got to Moab, because there's so much just steep, slabby stuff, the shortcomings kind of came out from all that height. It was like, okay, well, maybe, this isn't the greatest setup for like a Moab style trail. But the more we started looking at it, was that front locker. He needed the front locker. And my dad's a Rubicon. You'll see the donut. You've probably seen the donut video where they took the Jeep Liberty out. Well, then he went out again now with the front locker, and it's not lifting. It's just clawing its way through stuff. And it's not breaking. That's the incredible part. He had an issue one time with a rear axle that was supplied from 74 Weld. Still their early design, fixed that. It had taken out the rear locker actuator. Toyota fixed that, but it doesn't break CVs. Tie rod ends. I've watched Zachary drive that car and bend the tire against a rock, and tie rod ends were fine. CVs are fine. It doesn't break anything, and it's just amazing what that car could do. So if I had to pick one, it would be the LC 250.
There you go. Surprising choice. I did not think that's what you'd say, but it's interesting. You validated it. So
yeah, that's why. But man, the 700 would be nice.
All right. Well, thanks again, Justin. This has been good. And folks, if you're not already following Justin on Instagram, both on the Dissent account and on Justin's account, go over there and give him a follow for lots of good content. So thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and thank all of you.
Yes, sir.